Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the host of the Founders Report with Gary Fowler. We talk about incredible technologies, we meet incredible people, and we meet them from around the world. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 startups and 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I founded with Dr. David Yang. Today, I'm the co-founder and president of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart, yes, the heart of Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, California. So today I'm broadcasting from Palm Beach, Florida. Why? Because it's a little bit warmer here today than it is in California. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dirk. Dirk, Herman's incredible guy. What a wide background from Germany to Colorado, from working with some of the greatest consulting companies out there, up to Seed Angels. So just a wide background. He's a former Big Four partner with a demonstrated ability of working in the management consulting industry. He's skilled in digital transformation, business planning, M&A, IPO advisory, financial reporting, with a PhD in finance from Walden University. He's managing director Europe at Trusted GmbH, an innovation accelerator and wholly owned subsidiary. We're going to talk about this, with operations located in all the places, Tokyo, Japan. So he's a co-founder and CEO at Seed Angels, a private entity collaborating with startups as an angel investor, a mentor, and advisor. With that, I introduce you to my show. Hey, Dirk, how you doing today?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Gary. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well too.
So I got a question for you. So you went to Colorado. So you were in Germany. Where are you from originally? Are you from Germany or are you from?
Yeah, originally I'm from Germany. I actually have two passports. I have a Dutch passport and a German passport because my father has a Dutch passport. But I grew up in Germany, in Aachen, which is very close to the border to the Netherlands. I don't know if you've been there.
Yeah, sure. I took the train from Dusseldorf up through Cologne and up through to Amsterdam. So I've been
great.
there.
So you probably passed through, yeah.
I was waving when I was going by.
Yeah, it's actually a beautiful city. In one of your other shows, I saw that you were talking about the cathedral in Cologne. There's also a very beautiful cathedral in Aachen, which is similarly historical and worth a visit.
I got a question for you, Dirk. Why are the cathedrals so beautiful in Germany?
Well, that's a tough question. I guess because of the situation many hundred years ago. For example, Arkan, my hometown, was the center of the Roman Empire in the year 800, and that's why they built a very beautiful cathedral there in the Roman style. And yeah, I think it was similar for other places in Germany. I think that's
Wow.
why.
Now, wait a second. So the Roman Empire. So do you see a lot of like antiquities in your city? Do they have like aqueducts, and do you find those kind of things in the city?
Yeah, there is. There's actually a museum where you can see those things. And there was an emperor who was based in Aachen at the time, as I said, 800. So yeah, it's a pretty small place, only 250,000 people. But many hundred years ago, it was a very important place in Europe.
Now, is the culture in your city? I know in the U.S., as you know, right, Colorado is a lot different than New York City or San Francisco. Is the
Yeah.
culture in your city different than cultures, for instance, in Berlin or Munich?
Yes, I would say it's quite different. I would say it's a little bit similar to Cologne. I think it's similar to Cologne, but then it's already different to Düsseldorf. Maybe you know that there's a bit of a rivalry between Düsseldorf and Cologne. So I would say my hometown is a bit more similar to Aachen. But then when you compare it to Berlin, then I would say Berlin is quite different because it has the influence from the eastern part of Europe. And obviously, it was a divided city until 1990. And then, yeah, Munich and Bavaria is completely different animal again. The economy is strongest in the south, and so normally people in Bavaria and Munich think that they are kind of special because they are they're doing better than the rest of the country. So I think all those regions have their own cultures and specifics.
Interesting. Well, I remember when I was in Dusseldorf and I crossed the road on a light, and some grandmother came up and started howling, screaming at me because I was used to it. It's like, not a big deal. Of course, San Francisco, do it, but other cities, but they really enforce the rules, don't they?
Yeah, I mean they're very focused on the rules, especially the older generation. So that I'm not surprised that like an older lady would tell you that. Probably a young person wouldn't because they don't really care. But yeah, it makes sense. Like people, yeah, at least some people are very focused on rules, and that's a little bit similar to people in Switzerland. Right now, I'm based in Switzerland, and there also you have rules for almost everything. And yeah, I would say people try to follow them more than in some other countries.
So, how's the culture? If you compare Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, how different are the cultures?
Um, yeah, Switzerland, I would say, is quite different from the other two because it has different languages, right? And every part within Switzerland is already different from other parts within Switzerland just because of the language. So there's a German-speaking part where I am. So that one is a bit similar to Germany, I would say. And then you have a French-speaking part, which you could say is not so different from France, or at least there are some similarities. And then you have an Italian-speaking part in the south, which has influence from Italy. So in that sense, I would say Switzerland is very unique with the different parts and the different languages, which you can also see in the cultures. And then yeah, Austria is a German-speaking, and but they have their own dialect. But again, I would say the culture is quite different from Germany. Maybe a little bit similar to Bavaria, which is in the south. But then if you compare Austria to other parts of Germany, for example, Berlin, then it's really quite different.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. So, let's go down through. So, why in the world did you go to Colorado State University?
Because I went to
Did you pick on a map one day and say, I'm going to go to some place that is skiing? I'm going to go to.
no, it just turned out quite nicely because I like skiing. But I went to university in Germany, and they had a scholarship program with Colorado State University, and yeah, I was fortunate enough to qualify for the program, and then I was able to go to Colorado State University to do an MBA program, and yeah, I stayed there for 1 year, and yeah, really enjoyed my time there. I remember going skiing, just going for a day trip, taking the car at 5 o'clock in the morning, watching the sunrise, and then going skiing for the day and coming back at night, and it was really wonderful.
How culturally different was it from it coming from Germany over to Colorado?
Yeah, again, it was very different. It had like spirit of freedom, I would say. So like not so conscious of so many rules, and then also the countryside is wide open. I would say the nature is quite dramatic. If you drive from the south of Colorado, where I was, to the
Mm-hmm.
northern parts to go skiing, you can see the mountains and the different rock formations and the different colors. And so I would say the nature is quite spectacular, and yeah, it's quite different from how it is in Germany. Germany is mostly more flat, I would say. And in terms of the people, uh, yeah, I would also say it's quite different. And I really enjoyed studying there because the approach there I thought, was complementary to what I did in Germany. In Germany, we just studied, and then at the end of the term, we took the exam, and that was it. There was no project or anything, group cases or things like that. It was all very individual. And
Mm-hmm.
then you just took your exam at the end, and then it was all up to you. And then when I went to Colorado, it was a totally new experience for me because then suddenly we had all sorts of projects for every class, and some individual projects we had to present. Like in German university, normally you didn't have to present, but in US you had to present basically every week. and then you had to do some group projects. So you had to align with other team members and see who plays which kind of role. So it was more, I would say, preparing you for the real working life later, which is really useful, really more practical.
Mhm.
So having the two, um, I thought was really perfect to have. So I was happy for the experience.
All right, so let's talk about. So you go off and you become an associate to. You go to PwC. You spent
Mhm.
14 years at PwC. Now,
Long time, yeah.
right, 14 years. So you ended up as a director. How
Yeah.
in the world did you exist in a company for 14 years? I don't know anybody that's been at PwC that long.
Yeah, must be a horrible company, sounds like. But
I'm
first
not
of all,
saying a lot of people leave and get different, but they'll go to Ernst, they'll go to other places, McKinsey, and they'll move in
yeah,
different.
I did that later on. I kept it interesting because I moved locations. I was in London for about 7 years, and then I thought, okay, I would like to go back to the US because I enjoyed studying there, and I always wanted to go to New York because it's such an exciting city. And then, yeah, I tried hard to get a position in New York with PwC, and then I was able to do that. And I was there for 4 years, and yeah, I did quite a few trips to Mexico for a project, and that was really also a good experience. And then I felt like, okay, I've done Europe, I've done the US, I haven't done Asia. I would like to do something with Asia. So I explored possibilities, and I had two options. I had Korea and Japan, and I evaluated both. And Japan made more sense, so I decided to go to Tokyo still with PwC. And I went for international assignment. And so after 3 years, I was supposed to go back to PwC New York, but the leadership had changed, and then they told me the business case you had is not valid anymore. Come back and find a new one. And I said, no, you have to do better than that. And they said, no, that's it. You just come back and find it. And then I thought, actually, I quite like living in Tokyo, so maybe I'm not going back. And yeah, that's when I decided also to change firms. So that's when I went to Deloitte because yeah, Deloitte is stronger in Japan, and they were working at the same client as me, so they knew me quite well. So I just called up the partner and said, yeah, I want to localize, I want to stay in Tokyo, but yeah, would you be interested? And that's how I ended up going to Deloitte and
All
stayed
right,
there for.
Dirk, did you say I'm thinking about making a move? I'm not sure which way I want to go, but Ernst and Young could be the next level. You know what I mean? It probably that's interesting. So, did how was Japan working in Japan, Dirk?
Um, yeah, it was interesting experience. So I was there for 12 years, and I don't speak fluent Japanese. And most people tell me they're surprised that I was able to survive in Japan that long without speaking fluent Japanese. And most of the time, I was able to do it because I had some very specific knowledge. I could do something that maybe others couldn't do, the locals couldn't do the same way. And that's why I was able to stay that long. But as you said, I moved from PwC to Deloitte and then EY because at the end I did digital transformation. Initially, I did more the traditional finance stuff, but then I found like the vision I had that I wanted to pursue, I couldn't really do it. And then I thought, really, at EY, PwC, Deloitte, I had similar challenges, and so probably more to do with Japan and the working culture than specific firm.
Hmm.
Yeah, as a foreigner, when you don't speak fluent Japanese, you don't have the same access to the clients, and most of the clients are obviously large Japanese companies, and yeah, some of them are quite okay to speak English, but still there were some barriers just yeah, being able to access the clients that you wanted to go to. So there was a lot of yeah, internal politics, and that was then also the reason why last year I said, okay, I want to do something different. I want to try entrepreneurial path because I have so many ideas, things I want to do, and then also in a different country where I don't have these challenges. So overall, I would say, yeah, living in Tokyo was amazing. Like it's in terms of the big cities, I would say it's my favorite big city in the world because the infrastructure is perfect, and then the food is amazing, and the service is great, and yeah, you can do nice trips, and different parts of the city are totally different in terms of the culture and what you see. So I really enjoyed living there. Working was okay. It was a bit up and down. I had some good periods and some challenging periods, but overall it was definitely a great experience.
And how did they treat you over there? How did they treat you in general? Did you go out to karaoke bars and sing and all that stuff? Were you part of the team like that, or how
Um,
did they integrate you into their activities?
yeah, and those activities we were part of. So we would go to outings, karaoke, and dinners and things like that. But yeah, one thing I did not like was that the decision making, first of all, is pretty slow in Japan. Very unlike the US. Like in New York, people decide very quickly, right? You put the facts on the table, and then you decide, and then you execute. In Japan is very different. Like you. Nobody really wants to decide because nobody wants to take responsibility. So it's a very slow and cumbersome process. And also, when it comes to the decision, quite often we had meetings, and then we discussed it, and then there was no decision. And then afterwards, the Japanese would discuss among themselves in Japanese and then decide. And then I was not part of it, and other foreigners also. And then we were informed about the decision. And obviously, that's not very inclusive, and that was yeah, one of the downsides.
Interesting. And was it fun over there? Did you enjoy yourself in Japan? Was it safe?
Yeah, very very safe. So one of the safest places in the world. um, yeah, safer than the US, safer than Europe, and yeah, I can't think of any other country really that's safer than Japan, so it's very very safe.
You can walk around at nighttime, no problem. Nobody's going to
Yeah,
rob
you
you.
can walk around at nighttime, and also you can see small children walking around by themselves, which is amazing. Like 4 or 5 years old, they walk around by themselves and they have no problems. So that's really
Oh
nice.
my God, that's amazing. So,
Yeah.
okay, you're doing that. Then what did you one day just decide? Well, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go back to Germany.
Yeah, I was thinking where to go, and it was a bit of a process. I had invested in a company called Trusted that you mentioned earlier 5 years ago,
Hmm.
and they wanted to set up a branch in Europe, and then we considered Germany or Switzerland, and then decided Switzerland made more sense. And then I said, okay, I can do this for you. I can go to Switzerland and set it up because I wanted to make a change anyway. So I came here and did that, and that's almost accomplished. So that's going to finish that engagement next month. And then after that, I want to focus on my own venture, where I'm also part of your um, uh, program, GSD Venture Studios, now in week 3, because I want to start my own venture from yeah, next month or the month after.
No, it's great. So tell us a little bit about it. If you look at it, you look at Seed Angels. So that's you're the
Yeah.
CEO and co-founder. Tell us a little bit about Seed Angels and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so Seed Angels was another project I had when I was still in Japan. So I mentioned I invested in Trusted 5 years ago, and then yeah, I became interested in the startup scene in general, and there were some startup programs in Japan where foreign companies came to Japan and started to and tried to set up their business there, which is challenging for them because it's very different. So startups from Europe and from the US. So I became a mentor with Startup Bootcamp Osaka. That's what it was called. So then
Hmm.
I was doing some mentoring for some of those startups, and yeah, and then uh, I came across a VC in Silicon Valley. I think you're also familiar with them because they They also do the startup events, and with them you can invest in syndicates, so you don't have to invest huge amounts, but you can invest 10, 20, $30,000, and they have really interesting startups. And so I wanted to invest in some of those and be part of that journey. And yeah, I thought because I didn't really know where I'm going to live, and still I don't have like a fixed plan, 5 years, 10 years where I'm going to live. So I thought it makes sense to found a company and put those investments in the company, so I can manage them in this company, which is what I'm doing right now, together with a business partner who's still in Japan. And yeah, I'm thinking maybe in a few years' time, when I accomplished my own venture, and I have time for that, I'd be interested maybe to do a fund and maybe transform this company that's now just doing my private investment in something that's a fund, and where I would yeah, collect money from investors and then invest on their behalf in startups, because yeah, by that time I will have more experience. And yeah, it's been great. I'm learning every day, and the learning curve has been really steep over the last few weeks.
No, that's great. So you look at, so tell us a little bit, what was trusted? I know you talk about
Yeah.
endeavor to accelerate the open innovation ecosystem, but what does that mean?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. So it's basically a platform. So it's an online platform, and the purpose is to connect the ecosystems in Japan and Europe, because we found that many Japanese executives, when they look for startups, first they look to Japan, obviously, so they know the ecosystem in Japan quite well. And then some of them, the big ones, have someone sitting in Silicon Valley. And if they're very adventurous, they have someone in Israel. But Europe is so fragmented that normally they're struggling with Europe. And so we thought that's an opportunity to help them with different types of services. So one service that Trusted has is called Startup Finder. So if they're looking for startups where they are interested in the technology, we introduce European startups to them. And also the other way around, we introduce Japanese startups to large European companies. Um, what is also quite new for large Japanese companies is open innovation itself, that concept. That traditionally they've grown through internal innovation. They have their own innovation departments, and really most of the innovation was done internally. But they realized to stay competitive with, yeah, you know that Japan, more than any other country, has an aging population, and to stay competitive, they have to look to other places. They have to expand. They have to source innovation from other places. They can't just rely on Japan only, otherwise they will really struggle to survive. And so they understand that, and but they haven't done that before, so they need some help. So we also offer them, we call that innovation planning, telling them how other companies, including companies in the US and in Germany, go about innovation. And another concept that we came up with was, we found companies had a lot of IP that they're not using anymore. So they had thousands of patents, and they were paying millions of dollars in maintenance fees because they didn't want to lose them, but they were not really actively using them. They were not part of the core business anymore. So we told them, why don't you put them on our platform? So for every technology, we have a page on the platform, and then other members in Europe can look at this, and if they're interested in the technology, you can do some licensing agreement, and then you still get some money for this. So it's not just a waste for you, and you don't have to give up the technology.
No, that's
Um,
great.
yeah, so we have different things that all around open innovation.
So we're coming up to the top of the hour. So summary, what do you see as over the next year in terms of this whole environment for seed angels, where you're going to go? And then how do people reach you?
Yeah, my focus going forward will be on ESG Explorer. So that's my new project. And what that does is it helps companies to manage sustainability metrics. And the solutions that exist in the market today, the first problem is that it's not real time, and the second problem is that it's really done top down. So you collect existing data, and so it's not very accurate. And what I did over the last 2 years with EY, we found new ways of using new technologies where you can see actual process flows and have much better idea, for example, what your CO2 emissions are from procurement to production and to sales. So that's what the new business does, helping companies do that. And
Well, that's how they can course correct, because if you don't know exactly what's happening, how are you ever going to change it, right? They
yeah,
don't
exactly. And
pull it.
and that's the problem, because CEOs make bold announcements, right? We're going to be carbon neutral or negative by this year, and then they tell other people in the organization, okay, you guys figure it out how to do it, and then they're really struggling with that. And the platform we developed is for that purpose, to give them guidance and enable them to actually identify how to reduce their carbon emissions, and being able to track that in real time and then also report it, because now there are more and more reporting requirements for sustainability. And in that regard, we have reports as well that companies then can use to file.
Got it. And how do people reach out to you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think it's my email address. That if I don't know if you can show that, but the one I'm also using with your program, I can name it now, but I don't know if
Yeah,
people.
go ahead, name it so the people have
Okay,
it.
okay. So it's my first name, Dirk, and then Hermans at esg-explorer.com.
Got it.
So
And
yeah.
what about, are you in Twitter and LinkedIn and those kind of
Yeah,
places?
I'm on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the best way to reach me, and LinkedIn works great. Finding interesting people. You reached out to me initially through LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is great.
No, it's great. So I want to thank you for coming on my show today, Dirk. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to thank my entire audience for staying tuned in to another exciting edition of GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. Dirk, I want to thank you very much. I'd like to thank the entire LaToken VCTV team for making the Founders Report with Gary Fowler possible. Stay tuned again in 2 weeks. I'll be back for another exciting edition. Stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. God bless, and talk to you soon. Thanks.